Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's Pierre again. So today we're going to be talking about the productions possibilities curve. So this is a very fundamental graph in econs, in every econs class. So let's get started, shall we? So in my video today, we're going to look at the definition, the points of the PPC, the how to draw it, and exam questions. So first things first, the definition. So a PPC, or the productions possibilities curve, is a graph that shows the different combinations of two goods or services that an economy can use to produce with its limited resources and technology. So key points. We're producing two goods in our economy, and we're using limited resources and technology, okay? So it shows, the PPC also shows scarcity of resources, okay? So you have limited resources against unlimited wants. Okay, and you're producing two goods. We assume you only produce two goods. You have a limited resources and technology. Okay, how do we draw it? So to draw the PPC, it's pretty simple. It's one of the simplest graphs. So you start with your axis, your y-axis and your x-axis. After drawing those axes, you have to label them. So we can label our x and y-axis any goods that we want or any goods that we have been given. Let's say good A, and good B. All right, and then the PPC is actually a curve. So you draw your curve and you also label that PPC1. So that's about it, okay? Now you will be told to play around with the graphs. We can do that separately later or something, but this is just the basic way to draw the PPC. You have your good on the X and Y axis, and you have a curve. Okay, now points on the PPC. The PPC has several points that we need to take note of. Any point along the PPC, any point on this PPC, on this line, is known as an efficient point. Efficient, all right? Meaning we're using all our resources in the economy, okay? We're using each and every inch of labor, of capital, of enterprise, of everything, okay? Everything is being used to its fullest capacity, while any point inside the PPC is known as inefficient, okay? Meaning that we can produce here, but we're producing here. We have the potential to produce everything to produce this level, but we're producing at that level, which is inefficient. Some resources are not being used, okay? Now, points that are found outside the PPC, like point X, that is a good point. We're producing a lot at that point, but can we produce at that point? No, we can't. We do not have the resources enough. Our resources are not adequate enough to help us produce at that level. So we cannot produce at this level. So this point is called desirable. We desire it, but it is unattainable. Unattainable. Okay, so that point outside is desirable but unattainable. We want it, but we can't get it. We can't have it. All right, I hope that's clear. The points inside, inefficient. On the curve, efficient. Outside, desirable but unattainable. Okay, moving on. So we will have some shifts with the PPC, okay? PPC can shift. When will it shift? It will shift if our technology improves, okay? Or we found new resources, okay? Resources. So let me elaborate. For example, in your country, you're producing good X and good Y. Let's say good X is cassava and Y is maize, for example. Now, you're now started to use technology. You have started to use technology in your economy, meaning if you're using technology, you'll be able to cultivate a lot more than when you were using labor, for example. Therefore, you would produce more of both good Y and good X, okay? Therefore, it would be a shift. So assume that this is our original PPC, PPC 0, okay? Now, because our technology has improved, maybe we're using tractors and all, that means we'll have a shift outside, okay? Both good X and good Y will be produced in larger quantities, okay? So we can label that PPC 2 or PPC 1 rather, okay? Now, the opposite is also true. What if, now let's take resources. Our resources deplete. We have less resources. Maybe, for example, there is like a war or something like that that destroys our resources and our way of making goods in our country. Therefore, we would have a shift inside the PPC, okay? From PPC original, PPC 0, to PPC 1. PPC 2 rather, because we already used 1. PPC 2. So we have less good X and good Y because of the wars or the depletion of our resources. Okay, so that is a very fundamental topic. Sometimes you have one-sided shifts, but that'll be in the questions. Let's go to the questions. All right, now the exam questions. The first question is saying, illustrate economic growth and a recession using a PPF. So another name of a PPC is a PPF, so do not get confused if you have both names. So let's go on a blank space and illustrate economic growth and a recession using the PPF or the PPC. So we would start by drawing our curve, good A, and good B. All right. And then economic growth. What do you think? We are producing more in our country. That means we will be able to produce more of good A and more of good B. Therefore, it will be a shift outside from PPC original to PPC 1. Okay? Economic growth would be a shift outside, while a recession would be the opposite. Now we are producing less in our country overall, okay? We are producing less of both goods A and B. So it would shift inside from PPC 0 to PPC 2. I hope that's clear. Now let's go to the next question and see how we can answer that as well. The next question is saying, due to the Russia and Ukraine war, Russia has increased its output for guns, but at the same time, it has less yield for wheat, as people are not farming due to the war. Illustrate this using a PPC, obviously. So basically, in Russia, there is a war, okay? A Russia and Ukraine war. Because of the war, Russia has produced more guns. Guns have increased, while it has produced less of wheat because people stopped farming. You know, there is a war. You cannot farm as people will probably gun you down or something. So we need to show that with the PPC. So they have already given us the two goods. They are wheat and guns. So I'll put guns on this axis and wheat here. We need to illustrate that. We will start with our original curve, PPC 0. So guns have increased. Production of guns have increased. So that will obviously be a shift outside the PPC because we have increased guns. But at the same time, wheat has decreased. So that will be a shift inside. All right? It's a little crooked, but it's supposed to be a curve that looks a little bit like that. A little bit like that, showing that wheat has decreased. So we will draw an arrow going inside, while guns have increased. That is an arrow going outside. That will be labeled as PPC 2. All right. So when guns increase, wheat decrease, you show a shift but because we're using one production possibilities curve, we can illustrate that using that way. So another thing to take note of is what the PPC illustrates. So it illustrates, scarcity, okay? Uh, yeah, so it can also give you an overview of how your economy is doing. Thank you for watching. Catch you in the next one.